The all-new international hit show, Let It Be, featuring the Beatles reunion concert you never got to see. Performing classic hits and songs you never heard live. The New York Times calls Let It Be by far the best Beatles show yet.
Welcome to Art and Stage Talk Radio. This is Heidi Hardy. I'm your host. We're super excited to be here with you tonight. We have a wonderful show about a wonderful venue and, of course, a wonderful guest and co-host. Tracy, hello.
Heidi ho, Heidi Hardy. How are you?
I love that. That's that Heidi ho is a great nickname for me. I'm awesome. You're looking very dapper.
Well, thank you. We try to make an impression, and we're delighted to be here with you here today. I had a couple of weeks off seeing high school shows around North Texas, and we're back here today for a terrific show.
Yes. You'll have to fill us in on how all of that went. I know it was exciting stuff. So
you'll certainly be hearing more about that later.
Yeah, and we missed you for sure. And we'll be remiss with just bringing Jason in right away. Jason Wise with the Bass Hall, thank you so much for being here as our guest.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is going to be a fantastic show.
Looking forward to it.
Me too. But before we get started, as you know, we'd like to thank our sponsor. And Tracy, we've missed you, so take it away.
Sure. If you want a car that's perfect for you and your family with plenty of power, outstanding safety, state-of-the-art technology, not to mention dashing good looks. In other words, if you want the total package. And believe me, no car gives it to you like a Volvo, especially when you get it at Park Place. Park Place Volvo is offering the 2017 S60 Inscription for just $389 a month. It's the ultimate luxury sports sedan with an incredible handling and comfort. Oh yes, and some of the most beautiful Swedish design this side of Stockholm. Super smooth to drive and super low on fuel consumption with a 4-cylinder turbocharged and supercharged engine, plus cool technology like smartphone-controlled engine remote start, advanced Sensus infotainment system, and a built-in Wi-Fi hotspot, all standard. Park Place is also including the Inscription package on the S60, which ups the ante on style with 18-inch Tatiana alloy wheels and modern wood inlays. Like I said, it's the total package, and nothing completes it like a trip to Park Place. It's unlike any other dealership you've visited, where you'll be treated with respect and personal attention. How personal? Well, they have a whole one-touch sales process with a single associate who's with you the entire way. Forget about being handed off. And their service people are just as on top of their game, always greeting you by name and making sure your car gets the expert treatment it deserves. All while you lounge in total luxury with gourmet coffee, free Wi-Fi, flat-screen TV, and even a dedicated kids area. Yes, I knew some of you would appreciate all of that. So it's total peace of mind and a total perfect Volvo experience. That's Park Place. Stop by their Dallas location now or visit parkplace.com to browse current inventory, schedule a test drive, and experience Volvo performance in a dealership.
We are so grateful to Volvo for being our premier sponsor. Thank you, and cheers to you, Volvo. Thank you all. We appreciate our sponsors for sure, and their spot ads are just make you just want to, melt, because it sounds like such a cool experience.
I'm just going to go up there and hang out.
I know. Well, I don't know, Jason, if you have kids. All my kids are grown.
No
but
kids for me.
Well,
So.
taking kids to buy a car is probably a little challenging. So having Park Place offer some help, I'm sure, is a great benefit. So great job. Thank you for reading that for us. And thank you to our
totally
sponsor.
Extemporaneous.
Yeah, well, fantastic job. We get a lot of compliments about your radio voice. So,
Thank you.
And speaking of, just let's talk about Art and Stage Talk Radio. We had. Well, I was approached.
Totally legitimately, of course.
I was approached and couldn't be more excited about the conversation that we had with the Dance Council. And so this show is presented by the Dance Council of North Texas. And we are an organization that supports dance, obviously, throughout North Texas and really internationally. But we're also including the arts and theater and stage and music. We had a Mark Lanson on with Open Classical recently, and he was fantastic. So tell us a little more about your role at the Dance Council, Tracy, and a little more about the Dance Council.
Well, Heidi, Art and Stage, the radio program, is an outgrowth of the basic mission of the Dance Council of North Texas. Our mission is to support and promote dance, but we provide services in marketing and media support that many smaller businesses and studios don't have those resources. So we have always provided that through our publication, through our online publication, through our social media. And we felt that this concept would be a terrific one, and we're the first arts organization really, to my knowledge, certainly in the state of Texas, to sponsor a internet radio television show, and I'll throw television in there, video, which spotlights not only what's happening in the dance community, but anything that happens in art and culture on stage throughout North Texas. And the fun part of it for you and I is that we've had an opportunity already to have some really amazing conversations with some amazing people.
We really, really have. And there's, one of the things, Jason, that when we talked about doing the show is there's a never-ending pool of interesting stories and wonderful people out there that have history in the arts.
Well, I always say if somebody walks through the door of a theater and experiences any performing arts, that's a win for all of us.
Absolutely.
Because we may not have something on our stage at the moment that they want to see, but if they go somewhere and experience live theater, live dance, and they have that great experience, eventually we'll have something that they'll want to come to too. So I say, anytime anybody goes to live musical theater or dance or any live performing arts, it's a win for all of us.
And there's so many aspiring artists, and I mean, almost every artist that's come here has said they started at 3 or 4 at very young ages, and so it's not just an entertainment, but there's these ability to foster and encourage those who have that in them, that drive and that passion.
As we're getting into this conversation with Jason, should I introduce him to everyone?
Absolutely, please, drum roll.
For all of you folks out there who are wondering, who the heck is this guy sitting across from them? Jason Wise is the Director of Programming, Communications, and Sales for the Performing Arts of Fort Worth. He came to the organization in July of 2008. He has an extensive background, including almost a decade in corporate marketing, much of that in the sports world. He's charged with marketing and selling of each of the Performing Arts Fort Worth presented shows and the Broadway tours at the Bass Performance Hall in Fort Worth. He also manages the nonprofit organization sponsorships and the patron services box office, including group sales and special event rentals. His duties have also been expanded to include programming and scheduling Performing Arts Fort Worth shows at Bass Performance Hall. He serves on the marketing committee for the Fort Worth Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Downtown Fort Worth Incorporated, as well as road marketing committee for the very important Broadway League, which we're also a member of at Dallas Summer Musicals.
Yes. Happy to be here. That's a long bio. I need to trim that thing up. But,
believe me, I've had 4-page bios.
but I will
It's
say
perfect.
it takes a team. So
Yeah, sure.
I have a great team of people that help it all happen. But yeah, excited to be here today and share our story.
Thank you. Well, Bass Hall, as I've mentioned, is one of my favorite venues. I grew up, I was born in California, but got to Texas quick.
As fast as you
As
could.
fast as I could. And I grew up in the Fort Worth area, West Fort Worth, in fact. And I watched this downtown community transform, and I watched Bass Hall, put the angels up. There was just so many exciting pieces to that, and of course, since then I've been here a long, long time. I've had the pleasure of going to this Dallas Summer Musicals venue and other venues in the area. but because of my background in Fort Worth, it's
It would have been fascinating for me. I wasn't here in Fort Worth when the building was built and then opened in May of 1998, but I can only imagine what that celebration was like, watching that building
But, I mean,
be built.
you think about, and again, going back to Art and Sage, I'm not an artist or performer. So I'm the consumer. I'm that guy or lady that walks by and wondering what's going on, and I want to know more, and I buy the tickets, and so we want more people like me to have that
Absolutely.
that exposure.
I kind of say we're kind of the cornerstone. We are the cornerstone of the performing arts in Fort Worth. So on any given month, you might be able to see a Broadway tour. You might be able to experience a symphonic show. We have the Fort Worth Opera as a resident company. The Clyburn is a resident company, and we're gearing up for their Van Cliburn International Piano Competition that happens in May. The Texas Ballet Theater is one of our resident companies. So it's a great place to work because it's a diverse group of what we offer on stage, and it brings in a wide audience.
And the wonderful thing about it, having also grown up in Dallas and Fort Worth, for years in Fort Worth, your main performance venue was either the theater at the Convention Center where the Fort Worth Opera played, or Casa Mañana, which was a much more intimate venue and in the round as opposed to a proscenium. And Fort Worth people don't realize, its nickname is Cowtown, but it has been famous and for many years, going back to Amon Carter, a real center of arts and arts history. The Van Cliburn that you mentioned, wonderful history there of international significance. So what was missing in that whole mixture for many, many years was a performance venue that would do justice to large productions in various art forms. And thank you to the Bass family for stepping up and taking the leadership role in creating a venue that is truly, and folks, if you've never taken the opportunity, whether you live in Fort Worth or Dallas or Mid-Cities or anywhere in our area, if you haven't gone over to the Bass Hall to see a performance, take the opportunity sometime, because it is truly one of the most beautiful theaters in the country, and I've been in a lot of them around the country.
And
And
I
it's
say
a gem.
we're spoiled. You can travel around, see other shows in other theaters, and come back. And I always like to tell the team we're really fortunate to get to work where we work. And I think it also helps too. We're in the middle of Sundance Square, which is the entertainment district in downtown Fort Worth. So parking's free weeknights after 5, and parking's free on weekends. And there's tons of restaurants and tons of things to do. So you can come see a show, but also have dinner ahead of time and then go grab a cocktail at one of the lounges or bars in Sundance Square. So it really is, it's interesting when the touring Broadway shows come in and they stay in downtown Fort Worth, they just kind of keep going. Are we pinching ourselves because we don't have to rent cars?
Right.
We can walk around everywhere. We really are. We're the gem of Fort Worth, and we're proud of that.
Yes.
Now, hang on. I want to back up just a minute.
Okay.
I want to ask you, and this has nothing to do with the venue. It's about you.
Okay.
How did you? I want to know the
I knew
story.
where this was going.
Tell us about you.
I want to know how you were lured from the sports world
Yes.
into the arts world.
Well, I first like to say I did have 8 years of voice and piano growing up, and I did a little bit of theater. I tended to be more of the person behind the scenes, not necessarily on the stage, but more behind the scenes. But I had 8 years of voice and piano and loved theater and performing arts growing up. But I actually was in sports marketing. I went to University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, was a journalism mass communication major there, got an internship in Charlotte for an actual racing publication, and that was the journalism internship. Moved to Charlotte, finished out my degree there at UNC Charlotte, and literally I'm that guy that the dots connected. So it wasn't like I seeked it out. That job led to meeting, for those of you guys that might be listening that follow ESPN ABC, Dr. Jerry Punch, his brother, I met him, and he said, hey, there's this new team and new sponsor that are looking for a PR person. Would you be interested? Yes, sure. And that led to 10 years of doing PR and marketing for drivers and teams and sponsors and ad agencies in NASCAR. So I spent 38 weeks out of a 52-week year traveling for 10 years. I always, probably the best comparison is, I'm sure everybody in this room seen The Devil Wears Prada, the movie, which they're turning into a musical. It's in the works.
terrific.
That's awesome.
That was probably the closest snapshot to what I actually saw that movie in a theater and thought, I've had that experience where it's had a thunderstorm and the athlete says, I don't care, get the plane off the ground, tell the pilot to go. Great experience, wouldn't trade those 10 years to save my life. I think it's some of the same principles and concepts. I'll never forget when I started at Performing Arts Fort Worth at Bass Hall. They were like, we're a nonprofit, we don't have enough money to do a whole lot. And I said, no, partnerships are not necessarily about how much cash you have. And so it's been really fascinating for me to take some of that corporate background that I had working with teams and drivers and sponsors and translating that over. So what got me here to answer your question was I was at Texas Motor Speedway. So I have a really good friend that was working for PR in NASCAR. He left and went to Texas Motor Speedway, saw him in Charlotte in the fall of 2007, I guess it was. And he said, hey, Texas Motor Speedway is looking for somebody. I'd love to get you out there. I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana, closer to home. Was kind of tired of traveling 38 weeks out of the year for 10 years. Moved here and then got to know Pam Mennick. And for those of you listening, may know Pam, her and her husband were staples at Billy Bob's for years.
Absolutely.
And so she was on the Speedway Children's Charities Foundation that they do, got to know her. She said, hey, I hear that Bass Hall is looking for a marketing director. Are you interested at all in a switch? And I loved what I did, but after about 12 years of it, it was time for something else. She made the connection, and so I'm one of those guys that every job I've had is a direct result of a dot that was connected with the connection. So I always tell people when I go talk to students, people and politics, and I don't mean politics in government politics, but everybody you meet, make sure you strike up a relationship. And when you walk into an office on your first day, size up what the cultural climate, what the politics are for that local office. And if you know how to work with people and know how to read the room, it will serve you very well.
Well, I love that story.
It's a great story.
So see, people go, how did you go from that? But it's a lot of the same principles. I've never had an 8-to-5 job. I don't know what that would look like, or I probably would be bored to tears. So
I understand.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a break. We do have a video that we want to show, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I do want to go back to something that you said just a moment ago, and that is when you talk to students and people that are starting their career, the importance of building those relationships and not burning bridges in any industry, right? So you're crossing industries without necessarily, there were people that were interested in multiple things. So expanding your mind and your network is a really important thing, which I think is a great message. So thank you for that. So we will be right back. We're going to talk a little bit about American in Paris. We're going to see the video now. Thank you for listening and watching. We'll be right back.
Because people know American in Paris as a great, iconic movie with this, great ballet sequence in it, we decided why not actually tell the story using a ballet, jazz, Broadway vocabulary right from the get-go.
I feel like we haven't nailed it to any particular decade in the way the music's presented, and that's the feedback I'm getting, especially from young people, is it feels like a fresh new score.
It is An American in Paris, a new musical, and we really did. We wrote a new book, we pulled in a lot of new music, of course all the choreography and the design is new, so it stands on its own, I think. Yet, what's interesting is people that do know the movie and love the movie also love the show.
She holds her knife, the way she danced till 3, the way she changed my life. No, they can't take that away from me.
The romance in our story is so potent because it comes from a place of darkness that couldn't really be truthfully and honestly explored in the 1950s because it was still so close to the war. These relationships, this love, the joy, the spirit, it's bubbling under the surface and eventually gets to kind of just explode out.
It's that kind of love that takes your breath away when you see them. In that moment where she meets Jerry, it's the arrow striking, and I don't think she can quite believe it.
Audiences really connect with the idea of, you know, ideal love, or not even ideal love. It's not ideal, it's just true love. It's just that thing, that potent thing that, you know, if you're lucky in your life, you get to experience.
It's wonderful, it's marvelous, she should care for me.
In life, something unexpected can happen and you meet someone and then you know.
It will take you in places you never believed you could go.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Art and Stage with Tracy Jordan and my co-host Heidi Hardy. We're here today with Jason Wise, Director of Programming and Communication and Sales for Performing Arts Fort Worth. That's Bass Hall for all you folks.
Yes, nice clarification. We are the nonprofit that owns and operates Bass Performance Hall. There actually is not a company called Bass Hall. That's always a fascinating fact for people. So Performing Arts Fort Worth is the nonprofit that owns and operates the building.
So as a nonprofit, there's fundraising, there's donations, there's all the things that come with being a nonprofit.
Yes, people would be amazed if they knew how much it actually costs to keep
I
that
can
building
imagine.
in pristine condition. Any day of the week, we've got people cleaning the marbles, vacuuming the carpets. We actually reupholstered every seat in the theater last summer in anticipation for the Van Cliburn International Piano Competition this year. So yeah, there's a lot of upkeep, and then like I said, we have 4 resident companies as well.
Well, it is one of those buildings that you can't miss. I mean, if you do get a chance to go to Fort Worth and you drive by, it's beautiful. It's beautiful on the outside and inside. But let's talk a little bit about what you guys are. What I'm excited about this performance is I know it's playing right now at the Dial Summer Musicals.
Yep.
The opening day is Valentine's Day, and what a wonderful thing to do.
It's just the way, I would love to say that it was strategic, and we told the booking agent in New York that we wanted to open. It's just how it routed. It's at the Music Hall at Fair Park through this Sunday, and then we open next Tuesday, February 14th, and it happens to be Valentine's Day. So the stars just kind of aligned like that.
Well, and you have to say it is a great Valentine date.
It's a perfect
Yes.
Valentine's date. It's funny, usually Tuesday nights are not a night that you would be near capacity, and because it's Valentine's, our opening night is we still have a few tickets, but it's near capacity. So, and this is part of our Broadway series, so very much like Dallas Summer Musicals, we present touring Broadway, and that's another distinction. We don't produce. We're not a producing company like our 4 resident companies, so we present touring Broadway, but it opens on the 14th, and part of our Broadway at the Bass series, and this one's just a beautiful piece. This one is not a traditional musical. I always like to tell people, this one has very much of a dance and ballet element to it. And I don't want to give too much away, but the choreography with the set changes are fascinating, and it's so fluid. And the show, people that are listening that go see Broadway musicals are used to curtains coming in, and then the curtain comes back up, and there's a new set. That doesn't happen with this show. Every set piece and every set change is built into the choreography of the show, and it's really beautifully done.
I love what you say about it's a new type of musical. It really is. It's breaking new ground, and that's sort of a cliche, but in its entire visual concept, its entire visual look is like no musical that you've seen. Now, it's
the
got
projections alone are worth
Yeah.
the ticket price. Even if you're not a musical theater fan, it's
it
worth
flows.
experiencing.
It has a
Yes.
fluidity like water, it has all that gorgeous Gershwin music. And for all of you folks who may have seen American in Paris at some point in your life, the movie, other than the title and the names of the characters, the plot bears I would say glancing resemblance to what you've seen. It really I think is a wise decision because you don't want to be judged by that movie.
Absolutely.
So it strikes out in a new direction, but it's like so many of the reworkings of the original Gershwin shows on Broadway that it's called a new Gershwin musical. It's really a reimagining of the story.
And little tidbit behind the scenes, the two leads were actually the two alternates on Broadway and actually performed these roles on Broadway as the alternates. And that's rare as well, that you have a touring Broadway show that still has some of the cast that were on Broadway. So the two leads were the alternates on Broadway in those roles as well.
Well, you know, one of the things about that video that I thought was interesting, again, just from a perspective of someone, you know, that enjoys theater, they said that it really didn't have an era to it, and that there was a kind of a younger, the feel was towards a younger, I mean, it would appeal to a younger audience. And I think sometimes when we think about theater, we think about, you know, mink coats and top hats and everybody, when really, you know, these shows are designed for audiences of all age and demographics. And this one particularly sounds
And it's really fun. We try really hard. I know Dallas Summer Musicals does too, with student rush tickets for the Broadway shows, and that's always fun. We also have a really cool partnership with the TCU Theater Department on the technical side. So on opening nights, we've worked with their technical department and those students who really want to see the mix board and how all of that works.
Sure.
Well, those are usually the seats that we don't ever sell because they're right behind the board with big cameras and all the lights that are lit up. That's fascinating to watch, to have those students come, sell them a student rush ticket. They sit behind the board. That's what they're watching. And then they do a talk back with the A1 with the show afterwards to talk about everything that they watched.
What a terrific opportunity.
Yeah, and so that in line with what you were talking about, it's a great way to just, you know, we don't want to just be a building that people come in. We want to be a building that people feel like they're part of.
Sure. And again, just open to anyone who may not have in their younger life been exposed or invited to participate. But, you know, like I said, Bass Hall is a venue that you can
One of the best parts of
come
my
in and-
job is whether it's a concert or it's one of our Broadway shows, I always stand at the back of the house right when the lights go down. And you can kind of feel the mood and energy in the room. You just can. And then I always come back right before the end and step back in. And I love to feel how that energy and experience in the room has changed.
Sure.
Because for 2.5 hours, hopefully we've either provided somebody a brand new experience or we've allowed them to escape whatever they walked into dealing with for 2.5 hours. And that's one of the coolest things about what I do, is to get to walk in before the show, walk back into the theater right towards the end of the show, and you can truly feel how the audience has been moved.
I can't add anything to that. You know, as a theater manager, you're right. I love to stand at the back of the house, and every one thing has always fascinated me as a performer when you're on stage. Every audience that comes in, though it is you know, several thousand randomly thrown together people, there's some things that will be common. They laugh at the same jokes, but sometimes they'll laugh in places you don't expect. There are personality traits to that collective of people that each one is individual and different. And I just love that audience reaction. That's why I never went into television or film. Because it's that immediate feedback that you get that says you're doing a good job or you need to work on something.
Yep. Yeah, and every night's different. I mean, each night of a Broadway week has its own distinct personalities. I'm not going to divulge how we know which nights are which, but it's very different. A Wednesday night audience is going to respond very differently than a Thursday.
Right. If you ever have opportunity to go see a show repeatedly over a series of nights, a Friday night audience is different from an opening night audience, is different from a Saturday or Sunday matinee.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
You
fascinating.
know, Jason, when we talked, when we visited, you had said something that I thought was really interesting, and that is, you know, Fort Worth is an entertainment city, and Dallas, we're an entertainment city.
Yeah, I always like to say, and I would say it out of our friends in New York that go, why doesn't your cities roll out the red carpet when a Broadway show comes to town? I always like to say Dallas-Fort Worth is an entertainment market. We're a top 5 market all 5 professional sports teams, every concert venue. I mean, if you love live music, live sporting events on any given night, most of the time you can find something. We have a huge support of the theater and the arts, but we're an entertainment market first, and I think that's always in the back of my head. And so the hook is always, how do I get somebody into the theater that maybe have never come before, because that just wasn't in their wheelhouse growing up.
Right.
And then once you get them through the doors, we spend a lot of time about that experience. I can spend as much money as I want and run as many TV ads as I can, and they're very expensive in a top 5 media market. But if somebody pulls up to that valet lane and they have a bad experience with our valet staff, if they walk through the doors and they get their ticket scanned and they have a bad experience with the volunteers, which we have over 500 volunteers, that's a whole nother great story. Or they go to the bar, they go to Will Call and they have a bad experience. They just negated everything that it took to get them through the doors. So we spend a lot of time about making sure our staff and our organization is reminded that there are a lot of options. I love my friends in Des Moines, Iowa, but I always joke and say we're not in Des Moines, Iowa, where that is the only performing arts center in the state.
Right.
We're in a very highly competitive entertainment market, and so you always have to be mindful of. That's why I always say, if somebody goes to Dallas Summer Musicals and has a great experience at a show, I'm happy for that. I'm glad they're going, because eventually we might have something that they'll want to experience. But you have to realize that we're an entertainment market, and what's that hook that will get them in, and then once they're in, it's about the experience. I mean, we want our folks to they can't imagine not coming back to basketball.
You know, let me pay you a compliment. You mentioned your volunteers. One thing that when I was managing the Majestic Theater in Dallas, or the Music Hall, working with our ushers, you know, the Spanish saying "Mi casa su casa." That's the attitude that we work to have. Our house is your house. Steve Wynn in Las Vegas, he calls himself an innkeeper, and he's inviting you into his place, and he wants to treat you like a guest in his home. And when you walk into Bass Hall, your volunteer ushers over there and ambassadors in the lobby really treat you like royalty from the minute you walk through the door. They're really attentive to your...
Glad to hear that. I mean, we couldn't do it without them. We have over 500 active volunteers. Actually have a wait list.
That's amazing.
And they take a pride
They
in
take a
that.
pride in what they do, and that is their job, and we couldn't do it without them. And they really are the front line. I mean, every time we do a staff meeting, I always say that line in front of everybody. All of us are marketing people. All of us are salespeople. All of us are spokespeople for Bass Hall, not just me and our president and the marketing team. Everybody that works here or volunteers here is a spokesperson for the building.
You know, nonprofit organizations, and I've worked for a few, and I've helped manage a few and consult with. Volunteerism is one of the hardest, or I don't want to say it is difficult to manage and keep so many people motivated and behaving, you know, or presenting the mission and the theme of the organization. One of the big organizations that I work for is the YMCA, and they rely heavily on volunteers for soccer and things like that. So what is there a secret sauce to how that works for you guys?
Well, one, we have a great internal team. Our front of house team and our volunteer coordinator do a fantastic job with that management. I think my thing, whether it's volunteers or just people that work with me, keeping people in the know. Making them feel like they're not just showing up to do a job, but they're part of the fabric of the company. And that really, I'm really grateful to work for a place that there aren't secrets. Our volunteers know when we're getting ready to do something or when we're getting ready to announce a season. I want them to feel like they're part of the company, because they are, and we couldn't do what we do without them. So.
Right.
Well, and by extension, they feel like with your organization, which it is, should be part of the fabric of your community.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that why people are, you know, they talk about Texans being proud of their state and of their cities, and there's no place better. Well, of course it's true. But there is an ownership there. And as a volunteer, you as an organization, you create a product, something, an institution that people recognize the value of. and that has to be genuine. And then you also have to let them know that you appreciate the volunteerism that they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do a volunteer appreciation event where we invite all of them inside the theater, free event, full catered food, live entertainment.
Appreciation. That's a big deal.
Appreciation. Just a
Absolutely.
simple thank you.
Absolutely.
Just a simple thank you to anybody that's helped you get through the day with something, I think goes a long, long way.
Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to watch another video of an upcoming show for Bass Hall. But I do want to mention, I have a story, my first visit to Bass Hall. And it's kind of funny because I have a handful of friends that I've kept over the years, and we experienced Bass Hall at the same time. And it's actually... it's interesting. So stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we'll have more information about the Bass Hall. Thanks. Welcome back. This is Heidi Hardy. You're listening to Art and Stage Talk Radio. We have Tracy Jordan in the house.
Hi.
Hello, and Jason Wise with the Bass Hall. Hello, thank you both for being here. Great show, great information. I loved that video. And
Bodyguard.
Yeah, I was
starring Deborah Cox. So that video does not have Deborah Cox in it. The tour just launched, but I got to see the new production at Paper Mill Playhouse in November with Deborah Cox.
Okay, so let's make it clear, Whitney Houston is not in the show.
Yes.
And that would be a little difficult right now. But a lot of people have not heard about this show. And they're saying, what's The Bodyguard? Well, it's based on the movie.
It's based on the hit movie. It features all of the songs that were in the movie, and then it features a catalog of all of the #1 hits that everybody knows. So it's a lot of fun. It toured the UK. It's toured Australia. It has never toured the US. And so
has it played on Broadway?
It has not played on Broadway. So both us and Dallas Summer Musicals are bringing North Texas premiere here for The Bodyguard. It'll play 2 weeks at the Music Hall and then bounce over to Bass Hall in Fort Worth. So it's a great show. It's fun. It's in the summer. It's a perfect summer show. Yeah. So anybody that was a fan of the movie, anybody that's a fan of that artist, every one of her songs it's a catalog of just one hit after another. It's
Similar
a really
to kind of similar to Motown.
Similar to Motown.
You're bouncing on your seat
Yeah,
through the show.
it's I won't give too much away, but it's got a unique twist in how they produced it. Very different than I've seen. All of us that saw it at Paper Mill in November left going, it was really good, but also had a really unique suspense element to it, like the movie did, that I've not seen on the stage before, done in this way. And so it's definitely worth
I love
August
it.
1st through the 6th at Bass Hall.
The tease is awesome. Thank you. So just quickly, I worked for the downtown YMCA in Fort Worth for several years, and there was a group of guys playing on the basketball court, and one of the young men tripped and hurt his ankle. My job was to help anybody that was hurt, to make sure everybody was okay. I brought some ice pack, and a gentleman walked up to me, kissed my hand, and said, you just saved my show. It was Wynton Marsalis.
Okay.
And he said, I have 4 tickets for you, and I would love for you to come see my show. And I had not experienced the Bass Hall in that way. And so I invited some girlfriends of mine. And the tickets, set in the middle, right there. The show was fantastic. Lincoln Symphony Orchestra was with him. And but I remember their reaction, because they had never been inside the Bass Hall. And almost the whole time, they were looking up like this, looking at the ceiling. And they were, they were listening to the show, but they were so enthralled.
The cutest thing for us is we have a children's education program, and we serve about 70,000 students a year, a partnership with the Fort Worth Independent School District. And so every kid K through 5th comes to a show free of charge for the schools and the parents and the teachers. That's part of our fundraising. But to see a first grader get off the yellow school bus, walk into the lobby, and then walk in and take their seats, and they look up and see the dome, and just the magic on their face is something to experience.
Obviously for kids, but for adults that have never experienced. And by the way, now some of them are season ticket holders to a lot of different shows and venues. But again, you mentioned the experience and the opportunity to impress upon people who don't have necessarily that exposure. It was a lot of fun. The other part to that was we did get to go backstage, and we got to know the band, and so there, an experience of a lifetime. And
come as you are.
Yes.
I since I've been there, really have tried to dispel the myth that you have to have a suit or an evening gown to come into our building. I'm going to break the rumor there's no dress code.
Leave your minks and top hats.
Yes, you're going to walk by one night and see a symphony show or an opera, and you're going to see some patrons dressed in their evening gowns and suits and tuxes, but everyone's welcome as you are. And so I always like to kind of dispel that too, because it's a very grandiose building, and the architecture and just what it looks like. I always like to, I think sometimes people might be a little scared to walk through those doors. Come as you are. It's for everybody.
Absolutely. Well, and sometimes I like to dress up on a date. So you can also dress up if you want.
It's absolutely fun to dress up, but I don't ever want somebody to not think that they would ever be welcome because they don't have the latest trends in a suit or evening gown. So.
And I like to dress up in the hopes that I'll pick up a date.
Well, yeah, I had to clarify the date with my husband.
Hey, Jason, tell us about what's in store. What's the future hold?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are, at least selfishly for the season, we're in the middle of a 16-17 Broadway season, and so we have American in Paris, and then you guys saw a video clip of a Beatles' Let It Be, and then in June we have Matilda the musical, based on the beloved book. And then The Bodyguard, which we talked about. And then Beautiful, the Carole King musical, which was on Broadway. We have that in September. And I cannot believe it, but it's been 20 years since Rent was on Broadway. And so we have the 20th anniversary tour of Rent coming back to Bass Hall in October.
One of my faves.
And then November, we have Irving Berlin's White Christmas. And that's just in the 16-17 season. And both us and Dallas Summer Musicals announced our 17-18 seasons last week. And we're excited about ours. It's a history-making for us. We've never had a Broadway at the Bass season of all new shows, which we're very excited about. Something Rotten, which was on Broadway, kind of think Spamalot.
Which is an absolute scream of a show.
It's a great show. Finding Neverland, based on the movie, so it's about J.M. Barrie, the guy that wrote and created Peter Pan. We also have Waitress, Sarah Bareilles wrote the
Terrific
music
music.
and score
Love her.
based on that movie. Love Never Dies, which is the sequel to the long-awaited Phantom of the Opera. And so it has, yet again, it's kind of like Bodyguard. It's
Is that
not,
subtitle The Phantom Strikes Back?
the Phantom Returns. Love Never Dies, The Phantom Returns, and so it's never
Revenge
toured
of
the
the Phantom.
U.S. It's never been on Broadway. Both us and Dallas are presenting the North Texas premieres, and then we close the season with that little fun show called School of Rock that's on Broadway right now. So,
Love it.
and then we have Chicago as an add-on to the season. So we are extremely excited about the Broadway season and all the stuff we have coming. But I think looking ahead to performing arts, we're always trying to make sure we're programming a good mix. I mean, part of what I do besides just marketing is the programming, and you have to find a balance. Because you do want to constantly cultivate those new audiences. And I think shows like Hamilton on the Broadway side have been game changers for our industry. I'm also going to do a plug for a show that I've now seen twice on Broadway, and a show like Dear Evan Hansen is going to be a game changer and truly will save some lives when students and folks get to see that show on the road. And so I'm excited to be in an industry that continues to push forward and doesn't just replicate what's been done in the past, because I think that's critical and that's key. If we just keep regurgitating what we've always done, we're not going to necessarily. It's important for new audiences to also expose them to classics in a revival format, but we've got to constantly keep pushing the needle forward to engage. I joke and go, our musical is going to be 30 minutes down the road 20 years from now, because the attention span of people, I say that jokingly, but I mean, you've seen some of the newer musicals come out that are not 2 hours and 40 minutes with an intermission. So you always try to stay ahead of the curve, and just when you think you have it figured out, something will surprise you. It never fails. There's a show, there might be a show we book that we're nervous about how it's going to do, and then it just blows the socks off.
Jason, something that you do that I think is very smart, and you're talking about the size of the media market here in Dallas-Fort Worth and the sophistication of the audiences here. It presents a challenge for you, which I think you guys do a great job of, and for all of us in theater. You're talking to audiences, and you're programming things in your house, and you're saying to your audiences, if you really like this, you might also want to check this out.
Right.
Don't limit yourself to what you know. Check out what you don't know.
Absolutely. We've spent a lot of time, especially just on the Broadway season ticket side, getting to a place that I feel I can honestly say they trust us.
Sure.
It took a while because people they like familiar titles. I mean, if you brought in Wicked and Lion King every year, they would go to those shows every year. But it's bringing in those shows. So it's like I said, it's knowing we're an entertainment market. That could be a hook. And then you get them in the theater and they go, oh, I didn't realize the symphony plays here too. Or, oh, I didn't realize the ballet's doing the Nutcracker here. Oh, the opera festival is in the spring. It's a great way. And yes, this market is very interesting to how do you find the mix. And it's been a great collaboration. I couldn't be your day without saying it. Dallas Summer Musicals has been a great partner of ours. And that's been a lot of fun. And people on the business side to be able to co-present shows is a win-win for both of us.
We've enjoyed that
The
partnership.
touring Broadway side is, it's hard. Texas is not an easy route to get to. People always go, well, why is it taking 2 years for a show to get to Texas? Well, tours either start on the East Coast or the West Coast.
Right.
And so a tour is never going to start in Texas, most likely. And so it just takes time. And so the collaboration and the partnership, and you guys hopefully have seen the American in Paris advertising in the market that's joint.
Absolutely.
We couldn't get, either one of us couldn't get what we're getting if we did it ourselves.
That's
but
right.
by joining the marketing resources and the collaboration, yet again about collaboration, we've been able to hopefully let more people know that a show's coming. But yeah, basshall.com. I have to do the little sales pitch real quick. That's our website. So basshall.com. And I always like to stress, go directly to our website.
Yes.
basshall.com. Don't go to a secondary site. If you Google Bass Hall, you're going to see we're going to be up at the top, but may not be at the very top. And if it says ad, don't click on it, because you're going to most likely going to a third-party broker site. And nothing's more disheartening than to have a patron come to the box office right before the show starts, and one, they've realized they've paid way too much money for that ticket, or they don't even have a valid ticket. So basshall.com is the official website.
Yes, folks, buyer beware. Make sure you go to that official website.
Absolutely. Well, and we were talking during the break that that's across the board, but for sure it would be heartbreaking to think that you have a ticket and look forward to it for a long time and then be turned away because of fraud and things that happen online. I will say, so lucky me as a consumer that I have two great venues and also the ability that if I miss something that's coming to Dallas, then I can do it in Fort Worth, and there's this collaboration.
And go experience local theater too.
Oh,
I
completely
definitely don't want
agree.
people to think that it's just touring Broadway. I mean, we do the touring Broadway, but every chance I get, Stage West, Circle Theater, Jubilee Theater.
Well, and happy us, having been around the country, I can tell you, we have one of the most vibrant, healthy,
Absolutely.
diverse theater scenes of any area in the country.
Totally agree.
I lived and worked for many years in Las Vegas, and though I love that town, and it's the entertainment capital of the world, it's like all of that professional entertainment sucks up the talent, and there was not, and it may have changed now, but for the longest time, it didn't have a strong community theater scene. I talk about Dallas. We have Dallas-Fort Worth, many professional actors who have day jobs.
Absolutely.
So the work that you're seeing done here is really professional work. The fact that it's a community theater or a smaller theater does not in any way mean
Absolutely.
that the quality is
I just saw The Christians last Friday night that Dallas Theater Center is producing at Cletus Humphrey. A fantastic production. Highly recommend that one. Thought-provoking.
Well, Joel Farrell has agreed to come to the show, so we'll be looking forward to having him at the end of the month, actually.
He's fantastic.
Yeah. And again, the exposure to multiple venues, multiple opportunities to see whether it's dance or theater. Just being in the short period that I've been able to collaborate with the Dance Council, the stories that we've, brought to this program are amazing. We have young scholarship winners who are now ballerinas in international troops and
dancing in Russia.
Just doing things that they dreamed of as children. And so, what a fun and amazing industry to be in.
Art brings us together,
Absolutely.
whether it's fine arts, performing arts. It brings us together, and in these times, I think that's even more critical than ever.
I agree. We talked a little bit on the phone. Do you guys have international companies that come in and?
Every once in a while. I mean, we'll present on our popular entertainment series, maybe some international, but really the Van Cliburn International Piano Competition is really when our venue gets put on the world stage.
Sure.
And it is...
Now, just talk about that a moment, because people think, oh, well, that's all those people coming from all over the country, and it's an adjudicated thing, and it's not really for the public. But that's not true.
It's not true at all. They've got preliminary rounds and quarterfinal rounds, and they do screenings. We have two other smaller spaces in the building next to Bass Hall that we own and operate, the Van Cliburn Recital Hall, McDavid Studio. Those are open to the public. Check out our website, basshall.com, and there's information under tickets about the Cliburn competition, and it gives you the full schedule. So yes, yet again, it's not just for the folks, for a subset of people, it's for the whole community, and they do a great job of exposing the community to classical piano and what that competition means. I mean, we have folks from I don't know how many countries coming in for that competition, and we're the showcase for the world.
What's the foreign media component of that?
I don't personally know, since we don't handle the press. That's handled by the Cliburn, but we have a whole separate, we take McDavid Studio, I can tell you, and turn it into a press room. And McDavid Studio seats on a show 250, 300, and that room will be full of international media. They use every nook and cranny that we have in the space for setup. They do live webcast for every one of the performances. It's a really fascinating thing to watch unfold during the month of May and early June.
I was just going to say, so
yeah,
if you've
the
missed
finals.
it,
The final is Saturday, June the 10th on our stage. But I know their season ticket packages for the competition are on sale now. So
we have a few more minutes.
so not only I know we have the resident companies, and then Broadway's part of that, but you also hosts comedians, and you guys
so
have
that's us too.
mainstream-
So we, as Performing Arts Fort Worth, we own and operate the building, and then we present shows. So we present our Broadway at the Bass series, and then we have the BNSF Popular Entertainment series. And so those are your one-offs that we present. That could be Robert Earl Keen, that comes every eve before New Year's Eve, Lyle Lovin and his large band, or regulars. But yeah, we have Tony Bennett coming on March 15th, a handful of tickets left for that one. And then we just had Drumline Live last week. So talk about eclectic. And that was a great show to watch. So we'll do concerts, comedians, performing arts shows to kind of round out what we do. Our mission is obviously to serve as a home to the resident companies, number one. Number two is our children's education program to serve the community and education outreach. And then three, we present on stage to round out the cultural fair for what our resident companies don't present. So you're not going to see us present a ballet or an opera or a symphonic performance. That's what our resident companies do, and they do an outstanding job with it. We round out the fair on the stage with Broadway and concerts and comedians and more education outreach shows.
So again, we probably have a couple minutes. Tell us more about your education outreach and how someone that would be interested in learning more.
Yeah,
do
so
that.
first off, to learn more, yet again, basshall.com, and then
Okay.
we have at the very top of the website page, Children's Education, and you can click through and learn about that and hear the stories. But that is a partnership with the Fort Worth Independent School District. So every student K through 5th grade come to Bass Hall, and we partner with some of our resident companies. And so when the Nutcracker's in the building with Texas Ballet Theater, our education team will work with Texas Ballet Theater and do a condensed version of the Nutcracker, and students get to come free of charge and experience that during the day. So if you've been in downtown Fort Worth and streets are blocked off, I'm sorry, but you've seen
Dozens
the
of
yellow
students.
school buses, but we'll work with Stage West, and we've done Macbeth for high school students.
The Scottish play.
Yeah. We work with the symphony, and we'll do Peter and the Wolf and Copeland and the Common Man. And so we really try to make sure our education program, and it's curriculum based. So it's not that we're just programming this. Our education team does a really great job of working with the Fort Worth Independent School District and their education team, and it's all curriculum tied into what they're studying. And so we do about 8 different performances. We do a fairy tale for our young kids, and that's bilingual.
Oh, how
And
fantastic.
so they do a great job. And so, yeah, basshall.com, and at the very top, there's children's education, and you can learn more about how you can support the program. But it's truly amazing and awe-inspiring when you see those students come in and then they leave. But we serve about over 70,000 a year.
Wow.
That's tremendous.
It is. And that's part of that nonprofit piece.
That's part of our mission is the education outreach. And so that really is the fundraising side for us. People, you don't see it. We don't do an annual gala. We don't do an annual campaign. Our resident companies fundraise that way. And so we do help subsidize. And I always think that's a good point to mention. Our resident companies don't pay what it would actually cost to operate Bass Hall when they're in the building. We subsidize up to 50%. Of those operational costs. So when a resident company is performing, they're not paying what it actually costs to operate the building. We subsidize 50% of those costs.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Thank you so much for
It's been a joy
sharing.
to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, we have again a couple minutes, and so I wanted to make sure that if any questions or any closing thoughts on.
You know, we were talking about basshall.com. I'm going to plug our website too, and would
Absolutely.
encourage all of you who are interested to learn more about what's going on the stage and in the arts and the cultural scene in North Texas. You can find out more by going to thedancecouncil.org, and you can even join the Dance Council. We have some wonderful value to those memberships, including scholarships for young aspiring dancers. We have membership levels for students, for seniors, individuals, households, organizations, large organizations. And I encourage you to go on the website and check out all of the advantages. In fact, if you have an organization or a business that is arts related that you would like to utilize some of our marketing resources, you can go to advertising at thedancecouncil.org. And Christy Nelson handles all of that at the Dance Council for us, and she'll be happy to help you. Now, we can also say that if you want to share this or any of the other broadcasts that we have done, you'll find the link to that at thedancecouncil.org.
Absolutely.
And then I would be remiss hearing Tracy talk Student Rush tickets. My box office would not
please
be
talk about
happy with
those.
me. But yeah, so next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so February 14th, 15th, and 16th, $25 Student Rush tickets for American in Paris. Valid
And that's
student.
the best available ticket.
Best available. So show up an hour. Don't call the box office now because they can't process them. But an hour before. So each one of those shows start at 7:30. So at 6:30, when the box office opens, you show up with your student ID. It's best available, cash or credit. $25 student rush
So
ticket.
if there's an open seat in the front row, you can get it for $25.
Absolutely.
Kids, are you listening?
Or
Oh
when
my
those
gosh,
artists
absolutely.
release their holds at the last minute, when
Yep.
a company releases its holds at the last minute, and
You
you're
can
in the
snap up
orchestra.
some great
Absolutely.
seats.
So,
Oh,
Student Rush,
fantastic.
$25 tickets next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening to Art and Stage. We are always excited to be here with you and look forward to many more shows together. My name is Heidi Hardy. You've been listening to Art and Stage Talk Radio, presented by the Dance Council of North Texas, and have a wonderful day.
We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Once in a great while, Broadway celebrates something extraordinary. Matilda the Musical.